Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our third talk of the day. It's Dark Thoughts, brought to you by Dark Media in collaboration with David Village Lighting. You've just seen our nice little video for at the start. My name is Sarah Cullen. I'm the editor of Dark magazine. You can see copies of the magazine on the stalls there. We've put out a previous issue with the blue cover. That's the one that features the project we're about to discuss, so feel free to grab a copy and take it home with you. I think the project's on page 22. I had a quick check before I put it down so you can have a quick flip through. And to discuss the project, I'm here with Alessio Nardi, founder of A-nrd Studio, based in London, which is a multidisciplinary studio specialising in commercial and hospitality design. Originally from Italy, but now based in London.
Yeah, it's been a while. Too long, 17 years. So,
oh, wow.
Basically from Italy.
It's still inherited, still there. And we're going to be talking about Lina stores in Shoreditch, and you can see some of the images running up there on the showroom next to us, so you can sort of see the actual concept in reality. We've got Lina stores as the top restaurant, and then Bar Lina underneath. And you can probably see from the images in the article they're very contrasting spaces within the one project, so it's quite an interesting story behind that. So yeah, thank you Alessio for joining us, and I'm excited to sort of delve into this a little bit further. So to start off with, just tell us how you and your team sort of became involved in the project, how the initial sort of conversations happened and the briefing. Yeah.
Sure. Well, it all started with a called Lina, actually, from the White Valley Group, which is the hospitality group behind Lina stores and other successful brands like Cricket, in the restaurant, Arc Wellness, which is a new wellness sort of club that just opened. So they saw some of our projects, they knew some of our clients, because we do a lot of restaurants, hotels, and especially back at that time, we just finished Birch, which was a big renovation project just outside London, which was in a Victorian sort of mansion, 180 bedroom hotel with multiple restaurants and bars. So it's kind of relevant to the Shoreditch sort of architecture. So that's why they put up this first place.
Great. And what was the briefing that they sort of came to you, or did you sort of come to them with the concept? What was that?
I would say there was always like that idea of having these two spaces, that duality of Lina stores upstairs and then creating a bar, which then was called Bar Lina downstairs. And I think Lina stores is a brand that has been going on for like 50 years. So, it has its own identity, but at the same time, we were left quite free to, in a way, to inject our own sort of creativity into it, which is quite nice. So, for instance, if you know the brand, it's kind of characterized by the green color, but we could choose whatever shade of green, or like a stripe pattern, and how to implement that stripe, it's up to us. So we chose like fabrics, for instance, that was also like from the 50s, so it's kind of all kind of connecting to the story, or like into like marble sort of inlays and like striped. But yeah, so it was kind of like loose, but with parameters, I would say, for Lina stores. But then when it came to Bar Lina, it was quite free. They started sort of developing a little bit more of the concept for that, but they never really, they didn't show us at the beginning. They said, well, just give us your idea first, and then we discuss it. That's what we did. So yeah, it looks really empowering. And something quite important that I think they mentioned since the beginning, that they want to create something that fitted with the neighborhood. So being in shortage, we kind of took into consideration some of that. So creating something that felt a little bit more coherent with East London. So if you see, the way we treat the walls and finishes, a bit more raw and energetic, instead of if we were opening Marble, for instance, would have been like a bit of a different approach probably.
Yeah, a little bit more polished, but
yes,
more textures.
Exactly.
More materials. That's really cool. Did you always know that there was going to be a contrast in the aesthetics between upstairs and downstairs? Was that always part of the plan?
Yes. Yeah, I think at the beginning maybe it was less accentuated. It was a bit more soft. And then when the kind of concept evolved, and it's always like a conversation with clients. So we started developing it, and then there's a vault in Bar Lina, which is the old barn vault, and that would kind of create a very sort of monochromatic sort of room in burgundy color, almost like a 70s conversation with sort of design. And the client really loved that idea, and they asked us actually to translate it, to bring it into the whole space, and that's why the whole full monochromatic sort of color drenched interior came across.
Yeah, great. I should have asked at the start, has anyone actually been to the venue at all? No, okay. Cool. Well, yeah. I haven't either, and it's like, it's definitely my list. I need to go and check it out. It's always the trouble when I write about projects and I like fully get the chance to go and see them all the time, but I need to. How did the brief evolve over the sort of time, the course of putting the project together? Were there any major changes that you had to adapt to?
No, as I said, it was more like a conversation. There were a few things that had changed. More I would say, Bar Lina, as this kind of things we just discussed. In general, the brief stayed the same, which is easy in a way. There were choices, like for instance, Bar Lina, like layout choices, like we started experimenting at the beginning. Okay, should we do like a little jewel bar in the corner, and then push a bit more of a lounge sort of feel, or we do like a huge counter, and it's all about the counter. That's what we went for at the end. So creating this counter feature that is slightly lower than a bar counter, so you sit around and you have waiter, the barman kind of serving you almost like if you're in someone's home. So there were all these kind of conversations that happened kind of quite organically through the project, but not design change, not big changes per se.
And you mentioned at the start there's sort of a bit of an Italian influence. Was that personal choice with your Italian background, or was that just always a bit of the aesthetic that sort of goes with Lina stores? And how did that come about?
Yeah, I think that was more. Well, definitely there was a lot of Lina. So, we had to, as a design studio, we don't really try to impose a style within our project, but we start from our clients and kind of understanding the heritage, the background, the narrative, and kind of bring that into the interior. So definitely that was a big part of big influence. But obviously that's like a bit of heritage out. I remember when we started the project, I just came back from a trip from Italy. So it was good to kind of bring some ideas and sort of reference images from there. But it's a bit of both.
Yeah, definitely. It's also nice, it's like fresh in your mind. You can sort of pull parts from that trip. So turning to the lighting side of the project, obviously there's some outstanding decorative pieces in there. How much did the lighting form the brief, and sort of how did you integrate these lighting considerations within the project?
Well, I think in general, decorative lighting, I think we really like the idea of creating a good mix of like bespoke, vintage, and off the shelf to kind of have a unique sort of blend of different sort of fixtures. So even if you recognize, a very famous off the shelf sort of piece, but then it's just supposed by something that is fully bespoke, still feels like a regional sort of place. So I think that's something that we really enjoy doing, and I think for Lina especially, I think we did a lot of references to Italian sort of design. So upstairs we designed a lot of bespoke elements because of it was needed in terms of architecturally, we didn't find anything that really fitted there. So we pushed a little bit more of bespoke elements, and then downstairs was more of a mix of bespoke and vintage and some off the shelf. But they were all from Italian sort of masters, or Nardi, with Scarpa, so they were all very sort of iconic pieces, and then we had some bespoke elements and some vintage ones that were a bit more unusual, so create a really good mix.
How do you approach that sort of, how do you approach bespoke product design, sort of with a multidisciplinary background? Do you have someone in the team that sort of focuses in on product design, or is it something that you all sort of collaborate on?
Yeah, we collaborate on this. I mean, both myself and Lucas, my creative partner, comes from more of a product design background, so product industrial furniture. So I worked for Libro for many years, which is one of the most prominent UK lighting designers. And then Lucas comes from a sort of family of jewelers, always been kind of quite crafty and attention to detail, and it had to stick in retail design, high-end retail design, which is a lot about bespoke elements. So for us, it comes quite natural to bring that bespoke feel, bespoke sort of element to our project, and both furniture and lighting. So yeah, and I think it's very useful because then you create something very special, something that people haven't seen. So it's good to do it. But it's more of a collaborative sort of approach, me, Lucas, and the team, and then yeah.
Talk us through some of the bespoke pieces that are in this project then. Is it large sort of chrome globes, and which pieces did you create specifically for this?
Yeah, I mean upstairs on the Bar Lina, on the restaurant, Lina stores, I think the main piece that kind of started the whole process with the central units, which is big, some large installation, which is integrated in the seating area. And that kind of came across from inspired by Carlo Molino's project in Turin, which is a big theatre. It was a brutalist sort of theatre, and then we really like how the light was used there, because it's a brutalist building of huge scale. If you imagine Barbican sort of foyers, and then he created these islands of seat with integrated light, and really gave human scale to the seating areas and some intimacy, and that's something that we wanted to create in the space. As we inherited this beautiful building, but we could have just put some chandeliers up, like many Victorian sort of building in the city, but then we wanted to bring the attention down to the people, to the food. So that's why we created that central islands, and then once we developed that, we utilized the same fittings, like there's a wall fittings in the bar area and in the private dining, just to create a bit of consistency.
And did you have any fixing sort of challenges with it being an old building? Did you have any restrictions on where you could put the lighting and sort of how you fixed it to the columns? Did you have any sort of rules that you had to
Yeah, being an historical building, it's always a bit tricky. So, especially upstairs, I think the walls, we couldn't chase into the walls, so we had to decide if, we want to expose conduits or not, or don't have any wall lights, and then we had lots of paneling where we couldn't fit anything to. So we kind of decided to avoid any sort of wall lights, except for the one at the bar that looks almost like floor lights. And then to counterbalance that, we then created this concept light that goes behind the good seating, so without integrating good seating, so to create a mid-level sort of lighting layer, and then the central also lighting piece. And then we play with the architecture as well, and kind of illuminated the ceiling just very subtly, so kind of with some coffee lighting, just to enhance the architecture of the building. Even that wasn't easy, because family didn't work for me, but we managed to.
It's all disguised beautifully. So obviously bespoke is quite a sort of common thread within your design schemes. What are the benefits of creating bespoke lighting, aside from the flexibility? What are some of your favourite aspects of creating bespoke pieces?
I mean, for me, it's a narrative. They really contribute to the narrative, so you can create something that is specific to the project and to the client. So the client about that, but also it creates a beautiful story that is kind of 360. So it's not just the finishes, it's not just the spatial. So sort of layout and the furnishing that is also into the lighting. I think one project that we like is called, it was one of the first one when we did bespoke lighting. And it's a Mexican restaurant. We really wanted to work with a Mexican artist. That makes like beautiful sort of marquetry, sort of material with corn husk. It's called Fernando Apostle. And we couldn't use that in any surface like tabletop, so it's too fragile to use in a commercial environment. So we created some bespoke lighting that has this as a shell, so you can bring story to it, and I think that's a big advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there's some vintage pieces in here. How do you go about sourcing vintage? Is it literally going through markets, or is there like an unknown web page that's got some great pictures on there? Like how do you go about that?
It's a bit of 50-50. I mean, obviously the online nowadays have access to anything, which is great. We still have some dealers from the time where it was a bit less easy to find pieces. So sometimes you know exactly what you want. We have lots of like record of pieces that we like and we saved, or vintage magazine and catalogs. So if we find something that we like, we might contact the dealer and try to find it. Or otherwise, it's quite fun to go to markets and or just browse if you have time and get inspired. So yeah, it's quite nice, especially the market aspect. There's some really good ones. In Italy, there's a big one in Parma. There's one outside London that is quite handy, which was a bit better before Brexit, but anyway. So yeah, you can go to the markets and get inspired, and sometimes it changes the design actually. I remember once we were in a Cuban bar and restaurant, and then the light was already specified, and then we went to a market, so it's furniture, and then we found this beautiful round sconces in a big set, and we like, okay, that's what we specified, yeah. So it's
better than I loved that. Sorry guys, another 4 weeks on the project, I found this slide. Yeah, I think that would be my trouble, is if I had a garage and I was going through marketplace, I'd be like, that light's great, but I would use that in the future, you never know. No, I think that's really nice aspect. It's the blending the old and the new, and I think that works really nicely in projects that are set in historical buildings. You're respectful to the aesthetic of the original shell of the building, but also bringing in a contemporary element of the bespoke pieces. I think that works really nicely in new stores. So. Now we've not spoken about working with a lighting designer who sort of helps with the scheme. You guys collaborated with Lights on Design for this project. How do they aid in sort of the manufacturing process of the pieces and the scheme for the project, or both? Like, how do they sort of factor in with your?
Yeah, I think they did both. I think it was both, full lighting scheme plus helping with manufacturing, and we know Lights On for a few years. They started working with us in a project called Mid Beach in Seoul, which is like an all-day dining. Which is quite a tricky sort of concept in terms of lighting, because the owners from Sydney and wanted that sort of beach club vibe where you have sun during the day and then the sun goes down and then the candlelit atmosphere at night. So we brought in Lights On to help, and they did a great job. And also there they suggested like that if we wanted to do some bespoke lighting to fit the architecture for the project, we could, and we couldn't find any large sort of rectangle lighting, so they helped us make it, and then from there we kind of started collaborating more and more, and we understood that good synergy between us. But it's very key point, I think, of our project to our lighting designer. We really bring it to any client. Yeah,
it's always important. I'm always championing it. So aside from that, what else do you think they bring to sort of a project? How else do they aid in a scheme? Sort of balancing your light levels and your sort of your lux levels, colour temperatures with your vintage pieces. Do they all sort of aid in that process as well?
Yeah, it's full specification. So I think that's where true expertise comes to place. Maybe lots of technical spec light bulbs and all the architectural lighting. I think it's completely another world from interior. So reminds me of we don't know much about it. So getting the expertise and the product knowledge, it's very key. Sometimes you don't know what you can do, and then they come in and say, oh, there's this micro LED that you can use and you can integrate. It's like, okay, great. So it can really be a game changer, and I think it's important. And also the knowledge and generate layering lighting, which is great. I mean, for hospitality, I think it's key. You can't apply lighting. It's just it ruins the whole atmosphere, and
Yeah, it makes or breaks the atmosphere, like I said, and it sort of, I mean, it makes such a difference to how good the food looks on a plate, let alone how you function in the space and the wayfinding. It's super important. So continuing on the theme of lighting, how did you use it to emphasize the differences between Bar Lina and Lina stores? Because they're very different moods. Upstairs is much brighter, downstairs is very like moody and sort of dark speakeasy vibes.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of it. I think that was the brief and the two modes that we wanted to work. And the lighting played a huge part in that. If you see, this upstairs is mostly like opening diffuser, so it's very sort of diffuse light that gives that all day dining sort of feel. And then downstairs is quite directional, so all the lighting actually encased. So it's very different. And also like there's some small sort of also details, like for instance the finishes. Upstairs is all satin stainless steel, so it's a much softer sort of finish, where downstairs is all polished chrome, so to add that sort of reflection and sort of glam that you want in a cocktail bar.
Yeah, that kind of sort of, I don't know why I feel like that goes against what you'd imagine, because downstairs is more subtle. You think the sort of brushed finish would add to that softness, but you're right, the reflections and the polished shine to it downstairs does actually give it that luxe feel.
Yeah, and it adds an extra layer to it. As being so kind of dark and moody, that reflection I think really adds giving depth to the finishes.
And was there more bespoke fixtures upstairs or downstairs? Because I think downstairs had more of the vintage pendants, did it? Or?
Yeah, it's more upstairs was more bespoke, as it was difficult to find fittings that kind of really could work in the space. Where downstairs for a mix, I think it's more it's the basement sort of it's a little bit more standard sort of scale. We lowered the ceiling, so we could find something that fitted pretty much everywhere apart from the bar counter, which is like a 7.5 meter kind of marble counter, and we couldn't find a linear pendant that really worked there, so we decided to bespoke it.
And what are the considerations you factor in when you're choosing the lighting pieces or creating them, in sort of contrast to the fabrics and the textures of the wood and the marble upstairs, and then you've got the rich sort of velvets downstairs? What considerations do you take into when choosing lighting to fit in with those?
Well, I think it's similar. I think the example was just said, like the metal, even if it's very similar, but any brushed or polished, it gives a completely different depth to the material and then to the space as well. So I think it's very key, especially with metallic accents. I think there are quite a few options from antiques to polish, even brushed, and each of them I think fit different moods. So if you do something super contemporary and put like an antique brass fitting, it just wouldn't feel right and aesthetic, but it might work. It depends on how you play with it. But so it's definitely play a huge part, and I think it could break. For me, it could break an interiors if you choose the wrong finish in it with decorative lighting.
Absolutely, and I suppose it's quite a fluid sort of process at the time. Or do you choose furniture and textures first, and then lighting, or vice versa, or is it just something you sort of figure out as you go along?
I think it's a more organic process, I would say. Yeah, once the mood is formed as a general design concept, then you kind of start putting in all the different elements.
Is there anything you would have changed now it's all completed and you've been back? Is there any little niggles you're like, oh, I wish I did that different?
No, not majorly. No, I think it's pretty much quite true to that. I mean, when we see the first renderings and we see the pictures, it's pretty much there. So yeah, it's good. No, the only thing that will change is maybe the central light feature at the beginning was one, like all connected as one piece, and now we actually got up in between because of actually aircon coming into the way it's fixed. So we kind of, when I see the picture, like, oh, I wish it was less one. But it's okay.
I think that's the way with any project. I think like creatives are always perfectionists as well, and nothing's ever finished. So aside from like what, if there was anything you want to change, just what are your overall like sort of perceptions of the space? Has it turned out as you expected it to from concept to completion?
Yeah, actually, yes. And then I think, we always see like, obviously we see the space, but then you see the renderings and, you get so familiar to the scheme and to the images and you kind of almost get desensitized with it. And then when it all comes together, you always have that excitement. And I think we were very excited to see it when the furniture came in and sparkle clean, and it was like, wow, actually, it's quite impressive sort of project, so we're very happy with it.
And what was the client's sort of reaction to it? Were they pleased as well?
Yeah, very pleased, very pleased. I think it's one of the flagships of Lina, so yes.
Great. Does anyone have any questions? I've got one more to ask, but does anyone have anything they'd like to ask? Or I bet there's something. No, okay. So how does this project differ from others in your portfolio? Like, what were its standout features that are sort of variations on what you're used to working on?
Well, I think the duality is something quite unique. We've done something similar before from the Casa de Fango that has a bar downstairs. It's also different mood, but usually you have that consistency throughout the building where it's a stark contrast. So that was kind of interesting. It's almost like two projects in one, very fully. So it can have its challenges.
Do you have a favourite upstairs or downstairs?
I would say the vault, like downstairs, this kind of 70s carpeted room and big parties and color. I mean, it's a cool area, like to do. Invite a group of friends and have a good night.
Have you been allowed to do that? Have you been back yourself?
I've been out a few times, but I haven't booked that yet. So I'll wait for the right occasion.
Definitely. I had another question, but it's just gone. But no, I think that's all from my side. Yeah, I've got a question here. So first, because the microphone just behind you.
I was just wondering how you dealt with acoustics. It's a very high ceiling, and then maybe downstairs it's still your more intimate space.
I think we integrated some acoustic sort of panels in the sort of banquet ceilings and stuff. But then we were quite lucky that actually there wasn't, being even like a big building like this, it wasn't like a huge issue. We had an acquisition board with some reports and kind of suggest some solutions. On the lower ground, we didn't have to do anything. We didn't put any paneling, but it's hard concrete, so walls everywhere. So
yes,
it's
I'm just wondering when it's full.
yeah.
Gets as noisy it doesn't hear it outside.
Yes, yeah. It's a challenge and it's
Yeah, it can be, yes. Especially when you do with historical buildings, I think you can't put like paneling, and it would just ruin the overall aesthetic and it would cover historical features. So it wasn't easy, but small tricks kind of helped a little bit, and I didn't notice any issue with
a lot of upholstery.
Yeah. Curtains, nice sofas.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? I think we're good. I think it's time for us all to go and book a cocktail evening in Bar Lina and check it out for real. Are you going to do any more? Because I know we've got one that's just opened in Manchester. I think it's going to be spread.
Actually, they asked us to do that. But we were quite busy at the time, so we couldn't pick it up. But yeah, potentially, they're opening quite a few, so we good relationships. So let's see when the right one comes. We'd love to do another flagship or a big one.